Hi students, welcome to second year commerce class. In our previous classes, we have discussed about characteristics of management, levels of management. Then we have discussed about administration versus management. At last today we have entered into this lesson, principles of management, a very important one. Okay, for 10 marks. Any 10 principles, okay? In textbook you are given around 14. So principles of management were propounded by Henry Fayol, a famous management author, rather we can say father of modern management system. Henry Fayol has laid down 14 principles of management. This is as every class I am repeatedly telling you, I am always trying to inform you that you should inculcate certain management techniques when you become the entrepreneur or when you become the manager. Okay, that is very much required. So, Henry Fayol, after conducting lot of research work, observing so many workers, so many employers in the European market, in various Western countries, he has given guidelines how the management should be, what are the various techniques we have to apply. As we have discussed in the previous classes about the significance of management. As you know, it allows us, importance of management I have discussed already, that it allows us to utilize our resources in a balanced manner, and it will see that people work for achieving the goals. First of all, the management will set the organization a goal, and it will see that those goals are reached by the organization. It coordinates all the employees of the organization. Like that, management is a very big process. It is not a simple one line activity. Okay. So that is the reason, by observing the importance and significance of management, so many people have conducted lot of research work on improvement of management techniques. Okay. Among them, Henry Fayol is a modern management author and father of modern management. He has given us 14 principles of management. Okay. What do you mean by principles? Principles are the rules and regulations, guidelines which we have to follow to achieve great success. Not good success, great success. So if you don't follow principles, that may lead to our failure. If you follow principles, definitely that will take you to the success. Wherever you take, whatever the field. Okay. So in management also, Henry Fayol is stating that every person who is involved in management, or say the top people, particularly already we have discussed that levels of management, top level, middle level and low level. Top level people, when they apply the techniques of management, so they will see, they have to see that the employees of the organization will follow these rules. Okay. And the management will follow these rules. Then we will get good success. Okay. We will be achieving our goal, we will be reaching the target. Among the 14 principles of management, the first one is division of labor. Division of labor is also called as specialization. Okay. What do you mean by division of labor? Allocating a special work to a special person. Allocation of a special work to a special person. to a specialist in that field. Okay, allocation of special work to a specialist in that field. Live example of specialization you can see in the field of medicine. You got cardiologist to take care of heart. You got pulmonologist take care of lungs. You got neurologist take care of nerves. Orthopedician bones. Skin doctor, dentist teeth, ENT ears. Did you get my point? So generally, why do we require this specialization? In the area why we have to apply the principles of management and division of labor, earlier we were not doing. Because as you observe, at the present, complications have increased. Okay, so many problems are arising. So to tackle with those complicated problems, we require the services of an expert. So you can't go to a general doctor where he does not know exactly what is heart, how it functions. So specialization, first to a particular level, what we do, we study all subjects in an equal manner. Then we take the specialization. Okay, so when you study the specialized subject, what happens? You will get the expert knowledge in that field. So what this principle says is, in the organization, when you have employees, randomly you don't give work. You allocate the work, you assign the task to a person who is capable of doing that in a repeated manner. For example, in a junior college, I am given commerce over a certain number of years. For the past 15-20 years, I have been teaching commerce only. So what do you mean by this? If I see, as I am the specialist in commerce, so that we have got that advantage, like how to complete the syllabus, how effectively I can teach, what good result we can bring, what are the improvements we can bring in the field of commerce, that all I can do, because I have been teaching the subject for so many years. But imagine if I teach 10th December commerce, 11th economics, 12th maths, 13th physics, do I get the expert knowledge? If I try to teach all the 5 subjects, Telugu, second language, say English, civics, economics, commerce, maths A, maths B, if I teach all the subjects, can I teach you perfectly? Yes, okay, by virtue of my experience, I may be having some knowledge. But you know that half knowledge is very dangerous. So this half knowledge sometimes may throw us in trouble. So you can't afford such loss. Whenever you are managing a large business organization, if you recruit people with half knowledge and you give the job to a person who don't know it, how to perform it, so definitely what he will do, he will waste your resources. He will waste your time, he will waste your material, he will waste your money. So ultimately, the product will be bad and you don't get the proper result. Live example, you take the mechanics, maybe TVs, fridges or bikes. You go to a mechanic where he is expert. So just by going for a ride, he will understand what is the problem. Simply he will change that part and rectify that part. The bike or car is okay. Unfortunately, you take that to an inexperienced and other person who does not know anything about it. So what he will do? He will open every part. And ultimately, he will damage other parts also, because he don't know how to fix it and how to rectify the error, rectify the mistake. Similarly, in a business organization, we have got so many departments: purchase department, sales department, marketing department, finance department, accounts department, production department, sales department, like that. So we have to appoint experts, means managers for these departments. So this division of labor states that you divide the whole work of the organization into various departments. Divide it. Okay. So then each department you appoint a head. As just now I told you, accounts department will have an accounts manager. Who will be an accounts manager? Whom you will be recruiting? You will recruit a chartered accountant with experience of some 5 to 10 years, okay, who has got good track record. You will be appointing him as a accounts manager, then naturally he will take care of the accounts department. He will see that no errors are there, no manipulation is there in the accounts department. So whenever you seek report, immediately we will be sending you. You appoint a person as head, as production manager. He will take care of production activities. He knows how to procure material, how the work is to be assigned to the labor, how many hours the machine is to be run. If unfortunately the machine is under problem, how it is to be rectified. All that he will come to know. Understand, ma? So this is what called as division of labor. First divide the entire work into various departments, and each department should be given a head, and they will take care of dictating the orders to their subordinates. So generally each and every department in a divided manner, they will give the better result because they gain expertise. That means expert knowledge in that field. Live example how division of labor is applied, though it is not a multinational company, though it is not a joint stock company. You observe a tailor. Many times even you might have gone to your tailor. An expert tailor, he will never do the entire work on his own. Next time you observe. That is the reason I tell you. Commerce, you can learn the principles of management, principles of commerce and business. You can learn from observation. Whenever you go, you visit your tailor, next time you observe. The total stitching work he won't take. I am talking about an expert, not ordinary person. So an expert, a superior person who has got very good business in tailoring will never do the total work on his own. Because he is having excellent skill in getting the shape to your dress, for costume, shirt, pant, dress, anything, only he will cut. Okay. Stitching part is given to someone else. Because once the garment is divided or cut into particular shape, just joining, stitching can be done by any ordinary person. He doesn't require any extra skills. Extra skills are required to a person who has to cut the costume design according to particular shape. Fitting should be correct. So the tailor who is an expert will cut only. So then the pieces are given to the person, he will stitch. And you see various other works like weaving some mirrors on that, pressing buttons, okay, stitching buttons, etc. are given to other persons. And last, the lowest skilled person in the shop will be ironing the dress. Because for ironing you don't require 10th class, MBA, etc., etc. So all this dress is made and then he is given that, yes, you iron this and put it in the showcase, or just call the customer, give the delivery. That's how the things are going on. You take restaurants, single person will not prepare dosha, biryani, idli, etc. You got different masters. Next time whenever you visit, you observe in a restaurant, big restaurant, you observe dosha master is separate, idli master is separate, biryani master is separate, tea master is separate. Why? Because they know how to do that work in an effective manner, in a perfect manner. That is what called as division of labor. Means an expert in a particular field is given a specialized work, a particular work. Okay. So by doing that, we will get better result. So what happens is when you apply division of labor, the advantage is with minimum resources we will get maximum output. The advantage of division of labor is with minimum effort, minimum input, we get maximum output. So you all know, as entrepreneurs or as businesswomen or employees, every business organization's requirement is that the outline, total outline of your MBA, you learn this in your masters. When you go for Master of Business Administration, there you will give you these ideas. Ultimately, at the end of MBA, what you learn is, with minimum input, you should get maximum output. That is the outline of MBA course. What are the subjects you learn? Management, okay, Master of Business Administration. When you learn that, you have to follow that. You have to implement that. You have to execute that. So, as part of getting that maximum output with minimum input, The first principle you have to apply is division of labor. I hope you understood this well. Next, parity of authority and responsibility. Parity of authority and responsibility. What do you mean by authority? Power to order. Authority means power to order your subordinates. Power to order your subordinates means many a times subordinates means the people who work under us. For example, lecturers are subordinates of principal. So now you see in a college, principal has the authority to order lecturers to go to those classes, to complete the syllabus on time, to conduct examinations, to go for, ask them to go for paper valuation, etc., etc. A principal has got the authority to give orders to lecturers. Sir, go and invigilate in room number 102, stand in 103, collect their papers, take class to MEC people. Like that, a principal has got the authority. That means he can order his subordinates to do something, to do the activity of the business organization. To that extent, the manager, say the senior, the superior has the authority, means he has got the power to order his subordinates. So whenever an individual, a manager, when he is given the authority, he should be made responsible also for the results. He should be made responsible. For example, when the management is giving the powers, is giving the authority to principal to take care of the college and to order the lecturers, for the result of the college, principal is to be made responsible. When he is using the powers, ultimately, he should be made responsible for the result also. Both are to be equal. Parity means balance. Equality should be there. If you give just authority and he is not made responsible, we don't get result. And at the same time, you give him responsibility but don't give the authority, then also you don't get the result. For example, you ask your principal to get a 90% result, but you are not given the authority to him to order the lecturers and to command the lecturers, and he is not given any authority, how can he attain the result? For example, you take police department. Say they are given weapons, they are given powers to catch the criminals, to punish the criminals, with respect to law. So, one way, suppose if you make him responsible for crime control, catch the thieves, control the crime, you are making the police department responsible. But if you don't give them the authority to use the weapons, to use the law, to use the powers, then how can they control the crime? On the other hand, you have given them too many powers, but you have not made them responsible for the guilty things, then they can use their powers like anything. That is also not desirable. So, remember that whenever you give authority to a manager, he or she should be responsible for the result also. Similarly, whenever some responsibility is assigned to a manager, to a subordinate, he should be given or she should be given some authority also. Like you give gun without bullets, is there any use? That is why we need to give both authority as well as responsibility. That is the second principle. Third one is discipline. Discipline. What do you mean by discipline? The only thing we do not have. Whenever we come into the classes, we do not have any sense that a lecturer has come and is giving the lecture. Let us not talk, focus on the lecture, nothing. Discipline includes so many things. Coming to the college on time, properly dressed, how to behave in the classroom, how to speak to the lecturers. These are all will come under the category of discipline. This is college. If you are not disciplined, your career will spoil. Your own life may be wasted. But in an organization, if employees are not disciplined, the total organization will be spoiled. If employees do not follow the rules and regulations laid down by the top management, the work culture will get disturbed. Ultimately, we cannot achieve the goals. So, Henry Fayol states that discipline is the very, very important principle to be a successful management. So, always we have to inculcate the culture of work among the employees, and we have to promote discipline among the employees. If any employee is not following the rules and regulations, we have to take disciplinary actions. First of all, we should know the reasons why or how he is behaving or she is behaving in the organization, what are the reasons, then what are the problems we have to identify, then we have to ask them that there is no other option but they have to follow the disciplinary guidelines given by the organization. Discipline is a very, very important factor now. Even though you have got so much talent, even though you are wealthy, but if you lack discipline, that is going to get a disaster for you. Remember this point. When most of the students also, even we earn, we get a good job also. If we are not disciplined, we will get collapsed. That is what we have to concentrate. So always wherever you are, okay, at whatever the position may be, you have to follow discipline to a great level, right? So remaining principles we'll discuss in the next class.